Hello, welcome to McBoss Capital channel. This is Michael here, and I'm here with Sunil. And today is the week ending May 3rd, 2024. We're gonna do a market recap. We are still waiting for a follow-through day. On Friday yesterday, even though the index went up, especially on the Nasdaq, but it wasn't enough volume to confirm the follow-through day. And so we are still waiting for it. I'm just gonna pull up the chart really quick here on Nasdaq, and you can see we kind of, if this is the bottom here, 1522, 222 is April 22nd, and it's been many sessions now, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 sessions now. That we have been kind of making new highs, and this is the highest right now since that bottom, and we haven't got a follow through day yet, which is a little bit weird, because especially if it goes above this 50-day moving average, you would think the market might follow through here, but we didn't get the volume. So until we get a follow through day, even if we get a follow through day, so in the last August, July, August, we had this pullback, and it does a very similar chart, because it pulled back right here, and then it did do a follow through day here because it has higher volume, but even that one fell a few days later. So so just because we're looking for a follow through day doesn't mean it's going to be 100% successful to start a new rally. So we just have to be cautious about that. But so right now the sign seems good so far, right? Like that's the hope right here. The hope is that it will continue this rally. But if it doesn't, then just be prepared that it might go back down. Again, I don't know what would cause that, but just something. We just had the Fed meeting. So one thing I feel better now is that we already gone through the Fed meeting, and market is making, newer high. So that's a good thing. The earnings season, all the big cap techs are all out. Again, that didn't spoil this market bounce. So that's also good news. So those are the big things, right? And then we have like maybe 2 weeks of more earnings coming out in the next just 2 weeks. But a lot of them, like I said, a lot of the important ones are already out. Now I think we're gonna get into more industrials and earnings like that. And then next week I think there's gonna be more tech stocks like the software and all that coming out. So I don't think, at least I hope, they won't derail this trend right now. So that's the good news, from my point of view. So I feel like I'm leaning into this bounce right now more because of that. And also we'll talk about this later. I see more new leadership coming out versus the old ones, not just techs. There's some techs that are leading, but but even those ones are newer names. That's on my list. So that's also another good sign, is that maybe the market is trying to broaden out, and I actually do see some evidence of that. And let's just jump to it. Give me a second here, and we're gonna jump to this IB newspaper, this chart right here. So we see advanced decline line right down here, and and this was something I pointed out previously. Every time it makes a low, the advanced decline line is always a sharp bounce, but this recent here, right here, look how curvy it is. Like that, I haven't seen it in a long time. The reason why I find that significant is because like it almost showed that in chart patterns, usually when you see a round bottom is a good sign, because it shows that as the stocks are falling, it's not falling as hard no more, and it's falling at a very nice pace. That meaning someone is buying as the price even come lower. So like someone is not letting it go down further, and that's why you start to see this round bottom. And then when it comes back up, the same thing. As people want to sell, there's someone's buying it, that push it a little bit higher, a little bit higher, a little bit higher. That's why you see those round bottoms. And to me, that's a good sign. But the most important sign right now is how this advanced decline line keep making newer highs in the last 10 sessions. You see that? So we have this top peak here, peak here, peak here, and it keep making new highs. And this is the S&P 500. And the more interesting part is same thing. Look at Nasdaq chart. It did the same round bottom, and also, you know, before it kept making newer lows or it going sideways as the market go higher. But look at this. Look at it this time. It's actually making new highs as well. So that also surprised me. So both these charts telling me a lot about the market right now, that it wants to broaden. And so, what that means is you're going to see a lot of names coming out that probably you never considered before. So this is a really good sign. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see. But most likely, like I said, we follow the leadership and then see how it goes. Again, we didn't get the volume follow through. Like you can see, the volume is slightly lower. Let me go back to the chart. This volume, so Friday's volume is lower than Thursday's volume, so that's why we didn't see follow today. So the other thing that a lot of people are counting on the small caps to take the next leadership. So yeah, a lot of people counting on the leadership for small caps because people like Tom Lee thinks is going to lead the market in eventually, and we are again testing this 2000 level. Like this is insane. Like how many times have we tested? It's not even funny no more. Yeah, so maybe this is it. Like again, we say that so many times. So here it fell, and then here it tested so many times right here, and then it fell again. But the longer term trend, when you look at this chart, is positive, especially given where it is right now. Because right here we fell once, and then we went to newer highs, but this time we came back down. We didn't make a new low, right? That was the key right here, to me. When I look at this chart, so we didn't make a new low. So here we found support here, 50-day, and then here we found support at 200-day as it comes up. So now the difference between 200-day is much shorter now compared to like right here, right? So here, and it went all the way back down to really close to it. It didn't even undercut that, and it make a newer low compared to this. So I'm sorry, newer high, higher low. Sorry, that's what I meant. And so the sign is good. So the question is, can they do it this time? Again, so Friday's action was a little bit negative because it reversed. It's still an up day, but it just reversed, right, and closed near the 50-day. So that's the only negative thing I see here. And that's, again, but now the 50-day average is now above 2,000. So to me, that's a good news as well. So now instead of like lying around 2,000 before, it's now above it. So it gives it a new reference point. So we'll see. So all right. So that's that. And then we look at S&P. It's still under the 50-day. I think Nasdaq, as we saw, is just slightly over, right? Just slightly. Also, the other good thing is you look at the weekly chart, is now we're on the second week bouncing back from the bottom. So that's also, again, doesn't mean anything because, like I said, we could go into a pullback, the second pullback here, like last year. And then we have Dow. So Dow, I mean, this is the third week of rebound. Same thing. Friday it just closed at near that 50-day. The one, like I think I mentioned this before. The one thing I like about this chart is how it didn't want to go lower here 2 weeks ago. That was the really interesting test right there. Like about 4 days of testing that low of the this right here, and then here you see it came back again, And then here you see it came back again, and so many times, right? It tests this number around 38,000. So that's a very good sign. Like this is like almost the more times you test it, the higher confidence you have once it didn't break it. So that's why I like this chart. So it's almost like that's the base right here, right? So again, reset. So again, the other thing that's very important is this 200-day has came back up so much. So the gap now is much lower, right? Look at this. This gap was like so low here, and so that's a good sign too. The 50-day red line and the 200-day has the gap has narrowed. So that now it gives it, again, in the bull market, that's what happened, right? Market is going to go really extended, then comes back. The moving average kind of converge, and then the bull market continues after the pullback or correction, and then the gap widens again. And this could go on for who knows, 2-3 years or even longer. And so this is going to happen, right? And so yeah. But as long as earnings, and that's the key, earnings for the general market, for all the companies are good, then the bull market should continue, right? Because that's what growth is. You get better earnings, you're making more money, economy is still good, then the jobs, people will still have jobs, and everything will be good. People will spend money and so forth. So that's the key. Earnings is very important. Like what the Fed do or not do, a lot of analysts say it doesn't matter as much anymore, because maybe it's okay that the market can sustain this 5% interest rate for a long time, right? A lot of people even say this might be the new normal, because that's what back then, like, I don't know, in the 90s, there's a lot of time where it was 5% and it seems fine. So yeah, so it might not be a big deal, but for the newer generation of people, younger people, they might think, yeah, this is a big deal to them because 5%, like it used to be 2% or whatever. So but for a lot of folks, maybe who are more mature, maybe they're like, oh, that's just normal, 5%. So yeah. So yeah, like I'm just going over the notes this week, trying to like again, the key was the 50-day moving averages. They come back up, and now most of them are near that line. Again, we're getting higher lows, and we're also getting higher highs. So those are all good news. Let's see so obviously the biggest news was Fed. They didn't change their rate at this time, obviously. But they did trim the U.S. Treasury securities from 60 to 25 billion. So that obviously they're still holding a lot of debt, but but it has come down since March of 2022. So that's probably why that's a good sign, right? Like it's not a bad sign to me. I feel like this is eventually they're gonna cut rates, and that's what the Fed Powell said on Wednesday. That was like a lot of people didn't expect it, like how dovish it is. He basically said that number one, there's no stagflation, because a lot of people have been talking about stagflation earlier in the week. And then the other thing he also talked about is like there's no rate hike, right? Some people keep saying, oh, maybe we'll go back to rate hike, and he said no. So he basically shut down those two things that are the bearish sentiment. And so that's probably why we end up higher by the end of the week. Most people probably think, yeah, that's good news for the market. And also probably the most obvious sign is the Treasury bond, right? So let's just take a quick look at that. Yeah, so we were, pretty high last week. This is around 473 at the highest. And now we have came down to 4.5%. So it has dropped, and so and it broke the downtrend. So that's good news for the market as well, because usually this correlates to the market. So now it's going down pretty hard. Like look at Friday, it just dropped like a rock. So we see the 50-day down here, and the 200-day down here. So we'll see how it reacts around those area. That's the next probably important point. But yeah, I don't know if this is gonna keep just falling hard. If that is gonna happen, that will be very good news for small caps. That will, Russell and this probably correlate quite a bit as well. So, I'm hoping for that. Let's see. But right now, if you draw a straight line on the lows, it is still in the uptrend. So that's the only thing that's negative. So we'll see how it reacts around this. Like if it broke through this, then like I said, it's probably going to be good news for the market. But if it doesn't and it bounces from here, then yeah, we might see more choppiness in the market as well. So but yeah, I don't know why the Russell reversed on Friday. It reversed very early too. That was one thing I noticed. If I go to IWM as the ETF and I look at 15-minute chart, yeah, it reversed very early within the first hour. So I mean, it didn't go down further from there. It's just that next hour it went down hard, and then it went sideways. But I just didn't like how early it moved down. If we go to like QQQ ETF, it didn't, like it did go down, but it kind of came back up a little bit, right? And then it just went sideways after. But so this one looks a lot better. So I don't know why, because like I said, the 10-year yield was like right here. You see this rise right here in earlier today. So that kind of coincide with what happened in the Russell. As this moving back up, Russell dropped hard. But but as the day goes on, it did kind of came back down, but Russell didn't go back up. So that's also very interesting. So maybe we will see more choppiness, because it looks like this, and this one also didn't make a new low, right? Yeah. So it was like a gap down, but then a strong bounce back. So that was the interesting move here as well. So I don't know if this is, maybe this is the low here for a while. I don't know. So that's why when I draw the uptrend line on 10-year yield, it's still intact. So we have to watch this near this level. What's going to happen next? So that will probably determine, quite a bit what Russell will do. So yeah, Friday, why we had good bounce? Because the economy added 175,000 jobs in April versus expected 243. The unemployment rate also went up to 3.9% versus 3.8. So basically it increased because this job data, the cooler job data, increased the chance of a rate cut earlier this year. And yeah, so there's also some people think July might, I think the odds also went up a little bit on July cut, but that's still very low, I think. Yeah. So yeah, this is a lower volume on Nasdaq on Friday. Failed to qualify for a follow-through day. It went up 5% on Nasdaq. It is up second week in a row. It has reclaimed its 50-day moving average. S&P rallied 1.8%. Closed that on the 50-day line. And then Dow went up 1.2%. And the big news yesterday was Apple buyback, which is like one of the largest buyback ever. And then Amgen news on the obesity drug. So those are two big news. And then we have small cap went up 1%. Now it's a little bit below the 50-day line. And then the IBD 50, it had 1.4% gain. Let's look at that chart. So this represents like IBD 50 growth stocks. So this chart, we broke this uptrend down right here, and then it falls so hard to the 200-day line, found support, and now we came back up to the 50-day line. So this one, so you can see IBD 50 is not as strong as the index, right? Like, because the index, most of them are like Nasdaq is above it, and Dow and S&P are at the 50-day line, and even Russell. So whereas this one is still kind of below it, but it is coming up though. Just it has the similar trend. It's just interesting that it's not as strong on this bounce back. I don't know why. Again, I think lots of rotation is happening right now. So obviously the stocks in the IB50 is also getting rotated. So that could also cause the performance issue on this as well. Because if there's no rotation, it was the same stocks as previously, then it would have those performance. But because it has to rotate into other stocks, and I haven't really looked at the list yet, but yeah, that's why I assume it's happening, because that's what's happening on my own list as well. Lots of interesting conversation on Saturday with Berkshire reporting, and Buffett, sitting beside, I think, yeah, Greg Abel, that's his name, the successor, just talking a lot about their, the earnings and guidance and so forth. Yeah, lots of interesting talks there. They also have a high amount of cash, 188 billion, which a lot of them is in the treasuries. Yeah, and then this week we have, I think they report okay. I don't know, I haven't looked at the results. And then you have Palantir reporting, ARM reporting this week, Disney, Oxy, probably still a lot of stocks reporting this week. So we just finished a Fed meeting, and as we talked about earlier, no change. So it's June now, again expected no change. So June 12th is the next meeting, and then we have July 31st. Again, no change at 65%. September, the market is pricing in. So the market now is pricing in a cut in September from 5.25 to 5%. And then we look at November, no change. December, and then drop to 4.75. So the 2 rate cuts priced in the market right now after recent data. And so we saw a shift again back towards more towards a rate cut. So this is, potentially this could be the reason why the market trend is now in rally, kind of in a rally mode. So we'll see if this continues in the next week or two. Yeah. So yeah, the Atlanta Fed GDP estimate, obviously last quarter we finished with 1.6%, which is lower than expected. And the market recovered from that news, right? Like, it fell on that day, I remember, but then it recovered by the next day or two. So which is also very interesting. And then this now projected 3.3% growth, which is pretty high for second quarter. I'm surprised. Yeah, so this is very strong. The CNN fear grid is at 40 right now, so it's still in the fear level. And you can look at the chart here. We are near the bottom, so not sure how long we stay here. And then the AAII sentiment, the bullishness came back up from 32 to 38%. The bearishness slide down like roughly 1%. So yeah, so there's a little bit more bullishness now. Like, some earnings this week. SMCI. It kind of gapped down from the earnings, but the interesting part is like it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, because it didn't make a new low, right? But it is on a downtrend, so we'll see what happens. But it's just that I thought it would go down even more. So on the earnings day, it gapped down, and then it closed in the half range, and then the next day it went up, and then Friday it went up again. So like I said, I was surprised that it didn't keep going lower. So maybe the selling is done, right? Because this is a pretty deep correction. Because it went up so much, so you don't think it's a deep correction, but it is. So right now, as of today, it's 36% correction. So normally, most stocks, like this last base right here, 37%, 28%, 33% here, 37%. So it's usually around 30 something percent. So right now, probably the lowest low here is probably like over 40, maybe even 40 something percent. So it's a big correction, and maybe it's done. Like, so that's one thing I noticed about this chart is like it's still not in the official uptrend yet, but because the downtrend is still there. But the selling seems to have gone away, which is interesting, and it didn't make a new low. So yeah, we'll see if the market recovers, continue here rally. This stock might recover from here. Yeah, because they had two big gap downs, right? Like if I clear, oh sorry, let me clear this. Yeah, so this gap down right here, this was the first one on high volume, and then this news that just came out on earnings, another gap down on huge volume. So 2 days of strong volume. Like I said, a lot of sellers are probably out, like they're done. So whoever hasn't sold yet probably already. Yeah, I don't think there's many of them left based on this chart right now. But it's still overall downtrend. We'll see once it breaks with this downtrend. I would expect like it will show up like crazy because people who are trend followers, they're gonna buy into it. Yeah, so that was one reported. Let's go to the other notes here. Amazon also reported, and it has come back up quite a bit. So this day, I don't remember. Yeah, it bounced back from the previous day because there was a market sell off, and then yeah, it was more neutral that day, I think. And then now it's like new recent high, and yeah, it looks pretty good, this chart. And look at the weekly chart. It doesn't look as good because it went pulled back, like it pulled back really hard for two weeks, not even less than 2 weeks, and then now it bounced back like so fast, right? So it's almost near new high again. So yeah, like this stock has, like I said, it didn't do bad or very good on that earnings day, but you can
How's
see
the result?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I didn't follow the news much. But yeah, but the chart action is like, it's okay. And so even though it didn't go up much that day on earnings, it's still like, yeah, it was up 2%. So it was okay. Yeah. So one of the things that I think we should pay attention to when looking at charts is, recent, like probably the last 2 weeks action, just like, about 10 sessions, right? So the market has bottomed like, right here, like it's very similar to Apple. You can see most charts will look like this. It should look like this. Like it's been rebounding just like the market has. And this, is the 10th session here since the bottom. So when looking at this chart, we obviously broke the downtrend. And not only that, like look at the gap up. It gap above this long-term moving average as well. That's powerful, man. So it's now above all the moving averages. It did reverse by the end of the day, but it's still close above it. So like I said, just some selling there. The volume is so high, like it's crazy high. So that's another thing. So it's gonna, yeah, anyone wants to get out probably have sold, and anyone who recently sold like during the weakness probably also sold. So like, a lot of people are probably, at least the ones who wants to sell. And this is despite like obviously with Buffett disclosing he sold 13% stake, right, in the first quarter.
Yeah.
So so yeah, so even with all this, like, when you look back, you kind of like, oh, okay. Like I kind of knew he was selling because he already started selling the quarter previously, like only 1%, but obviously he continued on. So the question is like, like I said, the technical action is so powerful. And IBD talk about this buyback thing. Like in history, they study whenever there's huge buyback, the stock definitely goes for a run. So maybe, and you have to also understand, right? Like Apple is in September they're gonna release new devices, and right now the craze is on, oh yeah, this can be all AI devices, right? Like whether it's good or whatever features they have or bad or whatever, whether you believe in it or not, that's not that doesn't matter at this point. I think investors just hype, right, on, hey, these guys are going to release AI devices in September, and so this also kind of could spark a rally towards that point. Apple tends to run up quite a bit on news of any new products, right? That is have some innovation in it. So yeah, this could be a new uptrend, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, so Amgen was the news also of Friday. Huge volume. Like this is a huge volume. Bounce on earnings as well as on their announcement on obesity drug they're working on. No results whatsoever in terms of how good it is, but investors really like this news. It did reverse also by end of day, but that's after a big gap up, so that's normal. And we are still in this huge base, and Amgen hasn't really moved in. I mean, it did have this run right here last year, but it hasn't been deemed a leader in so long. And yeah, and you can see on this weekly chart, like going back far, it hasn't had a week like this in a long time. Like I think they say like historically probably like over 15 years or something. I don't know, to have such a big week. So, who knows, right? Like how this obesity drug, and counter to this is when you look at NBO Novartis, it went the other way because of that news. So that's also interesting. So the investors are actually reacting to this news that this obesity drug, maybe Amgen can do it even better. And Novartis was doing really well until that news. It was kind of bouncing back. You can see, although the bounce back wasn't strong, but it was bouncing back, and it was above the 50-day line. And all of a sudden, it just, like, it dropped even before that news came out. Like, I don't know if somebody knew. Like, I don't know. It was weird. It fell Thursday, and then Friday it kind of fell further. But it didn't close at the bottom of the range, so I guess that's a good thing. But definitely, yeah, it definitely shook it a little bit. And then the other one's Lilly. Like Lilly also reported this week with good earnings, and it gapped out right here on high volume. And look at it now. It came back down so fast. Like Thursday it went down, but then Friday it gapped down. So this looked even worse than Novartis because it gapped down and didn't even come back up. So yeah, so these two stocks got hit hard. And then the other one that is notable in the obesity area is VKTX. This is a smaller guy. And look at this. This is quite interesting. It's like, it didn't go down on Friday. So that's interesting. So even with this news, it didn't hit this guy. Because they're focusing on obesity too. So that chart looks very interesting. I like this chart a lot. I think I talked about it last time because it has tested this bottom twice now. Usually, like when you test it twice, and it didn't, you see this is a higher low, and now it found support. Like this is actually very interesting. Like on Friday, I'm surprised it found support at the red line, which is the 50-day. So if we look at the weekly chart, this looks even better. Strong up run, and then this giant week right here on the obesity news, and then it hasn't gone far since then, but it is basing, right? So yeah, like I said, Friday is very impressive short action, especially considering Lilly and Novartis both took a punch, big punch, and this guy actually holding and moving up. So for Microsoft, I feel like since their earnings, I didn't get the strength that I thought I would see, a reaction from the news as I thought it would. And yeah, it wasn't, and then it didn't really follow through as well. So that was the negative, and it make a new low. But it did bounce back the last 3 days. But it's just, I don't know, it's just a little bit weird that, that happened, right? That it make a new low. Now on the weekly chart, it's still on a downtrend, by the way. The good sign is it have 2 weeks of like closing at the top range. The problem with this chart is that, like I said, it's still on a downtrend, and also, the general market did go up, right? But this guy, it only closed up a little bit, like 0.808%. Like, so that also underperforming, and you can see the relative trend line going down. So that also like really weird that it's doing this. So so anyhow, like this is an example of possible rotation happening from this big cap stock. So something to be aware of. Like earnings are, you can see here, they're like it was going at 20%, and now it's slowing down, right? 9 and 6% going forward. So this is potentially what's happening right now, is that there's some rotation happening, and so they're going to underperform maybe the next 2 quarters, as you can see from the earnings, because they're slowing down. Now it might not drop a lot, but maybe the stock won't go anywhere for a while because of this numbers here. Anyhow, just something to pay attention to. Yeah, so Nvidia actually looks okay because the most important thing is it's on uptrend, number one. Number two is like it's above the 50-day, and it also make new high on Friday slightly, and it was a gap like in the morning above the 50-day too. So that's usually a good sign, and it closed strong. That's another thing. So it gapped right here, and it closed pretty near the top, and this is the highest level in, like I said, in the recent days, and so these are all good signs. Yeah, looks pretty good. So the 2 stocks that that did well last rally was SMCI and Nvidia in this area, and we look at ARM, which is reporting this week. It's not doing as well. It's still on a downtrend. It is coming back up though, but it's just not as strong, right? So yeah. So this long-term downtrend line is going to be a key here. That one right there. Yeah, AMD and ARM are very similar. They're on a long-term downtrend right now. Now the good news is, like, it did find support at 200-day, but that's because it made a new low. But the key is this long-term trend line. Can it come above it? It's been like almost 2 months now that it's under this trend line. So Micron is doing okay. Very similar to Nvidia chart. Did have a little gap up above the short-term moving average on Friday, and it kind of closed okay. Not super strong, but it closed okay. This pullback to 50-day is very clean. You can see it didn't even touch it, so the uptrend is still intact on the 50-day line. Yeah, the volume, you see, this is a problem, right, with some of the Nasdaq stocks. It's just the volume wasn't there on the bounce. Yeah, so here's Google. Wow, it looks really good. Like, I mean, if it had to gap up on earnings, right, and then it fell back, but it didn't fall much, right? Like, it's holding tight on the 10-day, and that's what you expect, right? So the uptrend is intact nicely. You can see all this 10-day here, this 21-day here, and the 50-day are all coming upward. So the uptrends are very nicely intact. So Google is looking strong. And Friday it came in with volume too, so that's also really good. Meta. So Meta, not a very strong bounce so far, I would say. But the thing I like about it is there's this upside reversal, right? And then it closed at the top. And then what did it do the next few days? Look at the lows, right? It tested many times right here, 3-4 days in a row. And it couldn't make a new low. So that to me is positive. The only problem is the downtrend is still intact right now. So once it breaks this downtrend, I would say, yeah, a good sign. But this support right here is also a good sign. Like, I like that support. Yeah. So we'll see if it breaks above the downtrend or whether it finally rejected there. So, and then finally we have Tesla. And Tesla also been bouncing pretty strong as we talked about it last week. But it kind of peaked on that last news. And this week it kind of pulled back, right? What was the news again? I can't remember.
That was Chinese.
Oh,
self-driving.
yes,
Approval.
yes, approval of I don't know why that's such a big news, but anyhow, the stock gap out on that really strong, and now, like I said, the pullback has been decent. It's okay. Like it gap up above all the moving averages, and now it's finding support at the 10-day, which is a good news. Like you can see, it's like holding really tight. It didn't want to come back and touch it, so that's also a good news. So technically, it's strong. Technically, the Friday bounce, I think, I don't know, man. I don't know why it didn't move. Like the volume is so low. And that's the thing, right? Like I know a lot of people don't look at relative strength line, but that's a very strong important. Like that for me is the number one indicator that I use. Look at this, right? Like let's say on Friday was like the first few days was okay after the news, it didn't do anything. But Friday, I expect when the market bounced strong, I expect it to bounce strong. It didn't, and so like, I mean it hold, it didn't fall, but you know, relatively it's not strong, right? That's the problem with this stock right now. So, you know, so I rather own Google than this, right? Because as you saw on Google chart, it was able to bounce back a little bit stronger. You see on Friday, right? So similar chart, obviously not identical, but because this one's on uptrend, whereas that one's on downtrend. But when just comparing like this last week action, I'd rather see this volume bounce back stronger, whereas Tesla didn't have that, right? So even on a short-term basis, it was so dry, the volume is not even funny. So to me, because you know, you would think people who are looking at this stock would come in and say, hey, I'm going to buy it here, right? It bounced back above 50-day, right? So that's the good news. This is the really good news, you know, because it broke the downtrend. Right, that's the reason why it's good news. So now all the shorts are, you know, a lot of the shorts gave up, but what you want to see now is are the buyers coming back in, and it's not. So that's the only problem is that, you know, yes, the sellers are gone, but are they buyers? Well, nope, hasn't come in yet. So, yeah, we'll see. Doesn't mean it won't work. It's just a little bit like, say, if I had to buy Google or Tesla, I'd rather much choose Google than Tesla at this moment. So this is the list I have that is sorted by price performance, right? And what I feel when I look at this list, especially like, you know, as you scroll down the top 50 or so, like, it's quite diverse. It's color coded because I want to see, is there an area that dominate, you know, in the marketplace, and I don't see that, right? Like you see industrials here, you know, you see industrials here, and then you see technology, some of them, and some technologies down here, and then you see health, right? And then you see retail as well, and then you see commodities as well. Like there's not one sector area that dominate the top stocks, which is very interesting. actually, before I talk about the stocks here, so yeah, I want to talk about like what happened this last 2 weeks, because I think it's been about 10 sessions since the bottom, and I want to show you the accumulation distribution side, and this is the number of stocks being accumulated. It's much higher than the distributed, right? And then same thing with the industry groups. So there's many industry groups being accumulated versus distributed. And then this week, we had 2 days where it didn't do that. Tuesday and Wednesday, the market kind of had a huge sell-off. But then it came back, right? Not only it came back, look at these numbers here. Thursday and Friday, it's much stronger than the week before. So that's good news to me. And same thing with the industry group. You see more of them are being accumulated, right? And in terms of like which area like dominate, you can see the numbers here based on number of stocks in each sector. So financials, were doing okay, and then it kind of went down, and then it came back again. Commodities, a lot of them have given up, which is kind of interesting because oil has been coming down. Health actually picked up this last few days, and industrial went up a lot. Like you can see by Friday, it went up like to 68 stocks being accumulated, and then retail, it's okay. Nothing like crazy or anything, but it did okay. Same thing with tech, right? Nothing crazy. It did okay. But yeah, you can see financials, industrials, and commodities was the surprise one that has fallen apart. We can jump, like I know we didn't talk about this yet, so let's just jump to it. So let's look at oil price. And you can see it's fallen like a rock right now. It broke this 50-day that day, you can see that big range day. So this is the problem right now for commodity stocks. So a lot of them, except one stock, and we'll talk about that. Actually, let's just go to it. TTW report earnings Friday, like shot up like crazy, new highs. Unbelievable, this stock, unbelievable. Like it's just so strong. I mean, the earnings are just phenomenal. Look at these numbers here. It just report 287% growth. Like this is insane. This company, it's just so strong. Like I mean, yeah. So we had this long base, has this run, pull back, didn't even go to 50-day line. Look at how tight it's trading at the bottom here, and then now with the good earnings, it took off again. So that's the oil related stuff. And then you look at the gold stuff. Same thing, right? Gold price has been coming down. Not as not as bad as oil yet, but it is on a pretty, it is on a downtrend. So we'll see, like it's 50 days getting closer. So we'll see how it reacts around here. So that's also another surprise thing. Like a lot of people didn't think gold would go down, but it did. And so now it's going, but this is after a big run. So this might be a normal action. And that's why I say like it could bounce from here. Because again, Jerome Powell calls this the Mona Lisa, because we have this like long-term trend right here. It's broken, and now we could be in a long-term uptrend, right? So when we look at this, last 2 weeks of pullback for gold, it might just be a tiny little blip on the. You might not even see it right now on the monthly chart. You see how tight it's trading. And that's after gap up last month. So on a long-term basis, this could go to the sky. So but right now maybe this short-term pullback might be an opportunity for some of those stocks. Anyhow, so that's gold. Copper also been really strong. Also pullback. Like this is crazy chart. Like this is even stronger than gold. And look at the pullback, it's not even as weak, right? So that's another thing. But it did pull back, and it bounced on Friday. Look at that. The volume wasn't there though. That's the only problem. But yeah, so strong. But the stocks are pulling back. So yeah. Some of this might be small cap as well, because I've never heard of like even this one, Aspen. In the chemical area. Report earnings, and it followed through the next day, very strong. Like this is tremendous move. Like again, this is like stocks in around the 20s price range. Usually the 20s price range, when they move very high. So that's, and when they come down, they can come down really hard too. So just be aware of that. Like, less liquidity price thing could cause an issue with volatility. Snap, yeah, like, this is sitting at a 44% gain since April 9. That's where my starting point is. And it has this gap up, and then it followed through on the days after, constantly making new highs. This is very strong technical action. I would say this is like probably the number one chart right now on from a technical action perspective. I don't see any chart that looks like this. 6-7 days of going up after the earnings, and we're still in the base, so the risk is low because when you're in the base, there's less sellers, right? But once you're trying to get to this previous point, and we know there's all this previous selling here, so once we get to this near this level, it's going to be tested big time, and how it reacts here, we're going to tell you a lot about what's going to happen to this stock after. So that's that. Medical products, TMDX. Again, a lot of these stocks have moved up because of strong earnings, which is okay because these could be the new leaders. Again, but what we want to see is what happens after that earnings gap. And again, very similar action. So this is like 2 days of follow through action right now. Now, eventually, these guys are going to pull back a little bit. It's normal to the 10-day because it can't go too far away from the 10-day. All stocks will eventually come back to 10-day. So just be aware of that as well. But yeah, this could be the leader for this new rally. Who knows, right? PHG also surprised me. Like this is like diversified operations similar to GE, and it also gap up on earnings. It has a intraday reversal. Again, that's not the problem, right? Obviously, if you buy on that day, too late in the day, depending where it pulls back, I don't remember. But like you could be under the water right now. But the key is that watching what happens after those gap ups. The next day, it didn't make a new low, but then the third day it did. But then it closed at the top, right? So that's really nice. And then not only that, look at Thursday and Friday. Again, similar. It's just holding so tight. And this is a $20 stock. That's actually not normal. So something is happening with this as well. And you can see the blue volume is much higher, except this one day right here. Even that is a very small range tightness. So I don't even think that's I wouldn't even account for that negative day on volume. But let's look at the long-term chart on this. Yeah, so you can see the earnings lines going up. Again, look at these numbers, right? Like they're turning around. 67 cents in June quarter. Yeah, that is strong. So that's why they have the reaction they do. It's because earnings really, the forward guidance are strong, right? And so just like Snap, right? Like I never thought Snap would do that well, but they have, again, forward guidance that are just so strong that you can't ignore it. And the same thing here. You see 6 and 15 cents by end of the year. So that's but the overall chart doesn't look that good, right? But who knows? Maybe things are turning around for some of these companies. So that's something to pay attention to. CRS, David Ryan talked about this week. Like on Tuesday sell off, like it was the one stock that stand out so strong, and it just didn't want to sell off. Like right here, this day, it didn't want to sell off on that day, and look what happened. Earnings took it higher, and look at that after the earnings, what happened? Fall through. This is insane. This stock. This could be the new SMCI. I'm not joking. Because it just, like, look at these numbers here. It's just strong, very strong. And the chart, like I said, this chart reminds me of SMCI because it has this long base and it tested so many people's patience. It finally came out right here, and now look at this. It's hard to see on SMCI chart now because it's all squished, but I remember this chart looks so similar to SMCI right here. Right here. Like it took so many times up, like in this base here. It just finally, when it came out right here, it took off. And it went up for like 6-7 weeks, right? This reminds me a lot of that. And like I said, relative strength is crazy. It just doesn't even want to come down on the down day in the market, and that's what happens. So yeah, so this is doing really well. I did, I did buy into the earnings. Yeah, I took when David Ryan was talking about it, I was like, I gotta own this. Like there's some, like even before the earnings I bought it because I was like, something really interesting is happening here on the big down day on Tuesday. And after you talk about it, I was like, yeah, I gotta get into it. And then the earnings propel it higher, and I bought even more. And then it just keep going. So we'll see how far this goes. Like I said, this resembles a lot of SMCI characteristics, and it could go a lot higher. And that's in steel, right? This GEV in energy alternative. This is from a GE spin-off, and this is yeah. So after the spin-off, it pulls back, has built this IPO base, and it has taken off since. This is a very strong uptrend. The 10-day slope. You look at that 10-day slope. Look at the weekly chart. It's really hard to even find the base on the weekly chart because the range is so high. Obviously very volatile. But this is not a small cap. This is $45,166. Go back to daily chart. It's much easier to see on the daily chart. Yeah, it looks pretty good. It's in the top 10. Again, a lot of new names, right? Pi is, it's not a new name, and but it had a really good earnings and broke out. That really impressed me, like highest volume in a long time. And then look at what happens after. It kind of falls through, right? Like the next day it didn't even want to go down. Like it kind of pulled back, but by end of day it kind of closed at the top of the range, and then the next day it fall through, and since then it just continues on. So yeah, really strong. Nice, again, nice breakout right here. This is a nice base, and all the moving averages were around here. So to me, this is a good sign for Pi. Again, this stock has been going out, but it wasn't on my radar before. So very interesting. PRCT in the medical system equipment, LNTH. Again, a lot of these names hasn't been a leader in the last rally, but they're all moving right now. Very interesting. Like these are medical stocks. Look at how the way it comes out. I don't want to use the word violently, because violent usually means like very choppy as well, but it hasn't been choppy. That's what I'm trying to, it's been really good. It breaks out and it just follows through. So that tells me there's a lot. And look at obviously the volume is huge too. It's rising. The volume is rising as well. Those are, if you like, probably the best way to study this kind of stuff is SMCI, because I remember when you look at SMCI, that's what happened. When it moves up and the volume is there, right here, then there's just more volume comes in. And then on any day that is down, those are the key day you want to look at too, because is the volume on that down day lower than the volume when it's up? That's how you know the supply and demand picture is out of whack, meaning there's way more demand than supply. And so when a stock's like, when they first come out, you're like, oh man, it jumped 20-30% in one day. I can't buy this stock, right? It just jumped too fast. But you have to look at it from a supply demand perspective. And so this stock, again, I don't know if this will continue, So on the next down day, see what the volumes looks like, because that will tell you a lot about the supply demand picture of this stock. Again, I don't know enough about this stock to talk about the fundamentals, but obviously there's something good that they reported on the earnings that make a lot of investors want to pile in. So yeah. So again, Lentis is another one. ATGE. So there's something happening in the education sector, because there's a lot of stocks, a few, not a lot, but a few that are running. And ATG is the latest one that just came out from earnings. A big bounce. And not all education stocks are the same, because I think like Check was the one that went down hard, but this one went the opposite way, still in the base. So this is one of them. LRNs that I can remember is another one. Yeah, so this one also trying to come out. See, all these stocks are trying to come out right now. Really strong uptrend. EDU. This one is in China, so it's slightly different. And this one also tried to come out. Still in a way in a downtrend, so it's not really fully out yet. Oh yeah, another one, STRA. This one already came out. And look at this pullback. Like there's volume there. So here's the higher volume on the bounce. And look at the selling volume. It's lower, right? It's not a lot lower. Like it wasn't under average. And then the buying comes back. So we'll see if it's on another selling. Watch the volume, how it compares to the days before when the buying volume, because that's the supply demand picture, and that could determine how much more it can go. Once the stock starts to run, this is very strong slope. Look at this slope. So that's another one in the education area. Powell. So I have this going into the earnings. Got a little bit lucky because it bounced quite a bit. But then it gave back, right? So here's the bounce right here. It doesn't look like it, but it was like up like 25%, I think, at one point. But the uptrend is really strong, because if I draw the channel line here, right here on the lows, it's at least 45-degree angle. So now since the earnings, it gave back, and look at the volume. Starting to go down, right? So if I go look at the earnings of Powell, like it's not going triple digit anymore, but it's still going, right? So 152 last June, it's going to be 216, 40. Now it is slowing down, so going forward there are projections. So we'll see what happens, but for now it's still growing, and the earnings line you can see, it's a very nice slope right here. You can see this earnings line right here. So it's still growing at a fast pace. But yeah, it is. You can look further into the future. You see the earnings guidance are much lower. So, I mean, this stock has been a titan. It has been going up. Like it's probably like this is like every time you see those numbers, it means it gap up on earnings in the week, and like went up over 20%. This stock has done it many times. It's crazy. So we'll see how this perform going forward. Whether sellers are finally say, "Hey, this is done." Like they're slowing down, they can get out, and maybe that will happen. But I don't know. I feel like this stock is so strong. Like I don't want to give up on it too early, because who knows this? Because they already have this long pullback, very orderly. I would use the word orderly because it didn't come down like hard. It just come down slowly, right? And then now on the bounce back, the slope is even stronger than the slope going down. So to me, this is like actually like a lot of technical strength on this stock. So yeah, I would hold it unless it breaks some key moving average. HWM in the aerospace defense, Kava. I mean, this is a restaurant. Again, IPO stock. A lot of people have eyes on this stock. So so let's see if it will work. Because I hate when too many people are watching the same stock. Because usually, the volatility will kick you out. But this is no doubt one of the biggest base, and like this is, look at this IPO base. I don't think, yeah, 50% correction. So it shake out a lot of people during this correction after the IPO. And now we have broke above this IPO price range or high, since the high. And now we found support here almost near that level as well. And now it's taken to new high really quickly. Like you can see on the weekly chart, it took 4 weeks, how many? About 3 weeks, more than 3 weeks likely to go down. But it only took 2 weeks to make a new high. Again, strong technical strength. RS line is like near new high. And it found support at this 15-day, right? As it rise, it got close, like it went slightly below it and then bounced back. So this is like, and the slope of the 50-day is so strong. Like this slope is like 40, almost 45-degree angle. Very powerful stock, Kava. So yeah, I would pay attention. Like I said, the only thing I don't like about this stock is too many eyes on this stock. So expect more volatility even as it goes up. BMI industrial did really well on earnings. Look, again, many of these stocks are report. VCTR on the financial side, THC medical hospitals. So GCT, Giga Cloud Technology, is a Hong Kong company, and I talked about this before. It's, again, this one has a lot of volatility, so it might not be to a lot of people's liking, but it has a strong run before. That's the reason why, this is considered a good growth stock. And right now, like, when you look at the chart, it looks very choppy. But when you look at the performance since a month ago, what it's doing is really just been making, higher lows. So this is the low, this is a higher low, and this low was tested here, and it passed. And look how fast it came out right now. 3 days to making new closing high. So I wouldn't, look away from this stock. It could be a leader again. If it did something like this breakout, like this is a strong, like this is not quite triple, but probably 250% from this breakout right here. So that's why I said, if this breaks out right here, and like Friday could be your first buy, I don't know, or you can wait a little bit longer just to get more confirmation. Yeah, this thing could break out and go another 200%. I don't know. I just want to make sure this is this stock could be have a potential. But yeah, when looking at the chart, you don't see that. You see like weakness because it's so choppy. But when you look at it from a performance standpoint, it actually is like in the top 15. ITRI in the industrial also did really well on earnings. Pinterest, yeah, let's look at Pinterest, because like, again, this is not a stock that's on my list before. Very similar to Snap, obviously, and similar action, right? Gap up, and look at what it did after it come out from earnings. It's just holding tight, and look at this volume. It dwindled down so much, right? So this is a pure supply demand picture telling you there's just a lot of demand for this stock and not enough sellers. So we'll see how it breaks out again. Same thing. Yeah, very interesting. BMA in the financial, still doing well. We talk about STRA, PDD in the retail, Amgen. We talk about LRN, this is education. We talk about Vital and Elway, both of them in the food products. Again, I don't know what's happening in this industries, but these are the leaders, and this stock is honestly easy to hold. Vital, and this was your last chance right here to buy it. Was during this basing. It went sideways after this strong run. Like, I couldn't believe it. and now it's going again. Like insane. This stock is insane. Like I don't know. That's all I can say. It's such a good stock to hold. Now earnings in 4 days, so we'll see what happens. Elway, very similar, in the same area almost. This one a little bit more volatile. This 1 day here, I don't remember what happened that day. I don't even think there's news. At least I don't remember seeing it. But yeah, it was a violent day. Like really, like it came back down the way. But look at this bounce right now. So that day would have shaken out a lot of people right here. So now it's at new high again. This is insane, right? Like, but yeah, again, this is a $20 stock, so and low volume, so it could be more violent, right? But overall, this again, if you discount the volatile days, it's in a strong uptrend. That's why that's why it's in the top 23 ranking right now on my list. 24. IoT still doing okay. VRT, this is like an Energizer bunny. Jerome Powell just mentioned he started taking positions in this. He missed the last run. This is a strong run. Like I mean, this goes back a long time. And then this was your opportunity. Pull back to the 50-day, where institution came back and bought it back. Either they bought back or they just bought more, and it's going again. Again, the electrical area, especially anything that supply to the AI industry, this is the story right now. VRT is the story for that. It continues to go on. The growth is not as strong no more, like, but it's still growing, right? Like, you know, like it used to be triple digit, but now it's slowing. But it's still growing, right? Like 20-30%. So it's still growing. It's just not as fast. That's all. So yeah, if you think AI industry continues to grow, then this is a stock for it. Like this is probably the one AI stock, related stock, that is very consistent, right? Like the uptrend is so consistent. To me, this is even more consistent. I mean, I don't want to say Nvidia is second to this, but they're very close, right? And if you know, and this one, like I say, yeah, except this, you know, this day was violent too. I don't remember what was. Yeah, so that was the earnings day. It was violent. But overall, like I said, the uptrend is intact. Very nice bounce from the 50-day. I mean, this could be the true leader. If you want to hold something long term, like I say, I think when you look at this chart versus Nvidia, very similar in many ways. But I feel like VRT is even better looking because I know Nvidia has this long base right here, whereas VRT didn't have that. Like I mean, right here it's much shorter, right? And it just continues. And yeah, the 50-day line is, you know, again, very big sign that institution is getting into this stock. And Jerome Powell mentioned he started position on this last week. So yeah, anyhow, I like that stock. Like I think it's very clear now. It's a leader in my opinion. LKT came back up as well. Form. I want to talk about Form because it's a new name on my list. I don't know. I haven't remember anyone talk about this on IBD. But it came out on strong earnings. And look at this numbers turn around. Like pretty good going forward. From previous years, right? Like you can see the big difference. And so you can see the earnings line has been going down, now it's starting to go up. And so it's a turnaround story. It's, you know, smaller cap. Yeah, I think, and if you look at the monthly chart just to see, yeah, this is at all-time high right now. So again, I don't know enough about the fundamentals, but this is a strong action to me, really strong. So that's another name. Miniso. This name has been out of my picture for a while now. Like I don't remember. It was at least a year probably since I traded this. Yeah, because this is the run right here I was trading. and then I tried a few more times. This is what the base that fell, and then I haven't traded it since a while. Now it's making a strong move. And this, again, one thing that's happening this last week was a lot of the Chinese stocks have rebound. Now a lot of people don't want to play the Chinese market, but but this is a strong uptrend. The other one is PDD. Same idea, right? This is a long base, and now this uptrend is strong. So yeah, so that's why I said, I think also the other thing, Jerome Powell also mentioned this. I didn't know, but he followed the Chinese market. I don't think he traded it though, but he just talked about it. If you look at, I think FTI, no, not FTI. I forgot the Chinese index, FXI maybe. Yeah, China large cap. They make a follow through day on the 14th day. I don't remember where they count from. I can't remember. It might be somewhere here. They follow through, and now it's coming up strong. Look at this slope. That's crazy. And this is the largest cap one. So look at this. So this is on this long downtrend, and look at it. It broke through. Now last time it did, it fell right here. But this could be real this time. One of the things that some people talk about, not many, is that US inflation is more stickier. That's what people have been saying. But inflation around the world, other places, has come down a lot. Like even in Canada, right? So they're saying because the inflation has come down, a lot of those countries are going to start cutting rates. Now, obviously, US is the one that keep holding on right now because of recent inflation data. But they say, what happens, if those countries start cutting rates? What's going to happen, right? So that's very interesting. And so, I guess what whether they start cutting or not, I don't think that is important or when they'll cut it. It's more important that the trend is going towards a reducing rate environment, which is better for business, right? So I think that's what's happening, and I think if this is the story that's going to go forward, then yeah, market could rally a lot in these countries. And so yeah, anyhow, just want to talk about that a little bit because I see a big change in momentum right now on Chinese stocks. ARAF, again, aerospace and industrial. ALAB. Let's talk about ALAB because a lot of people watching this. I think Mike Webster owns this. It's his biggest position on IBD from IBD, and it is not easy stock to hold. Just so you know, it is also very choppy. But we talked about this before. It has a nice IPO base. It did fall back recently, so this is the test. And again, because the range is so big, it makes the chart looks ugly, right? If you go to weekly chart, again, it's slightly, even here is very hard to read. You have this, again, this base. Now it pulled back after this, run here, this short-term run. But I think the key thing is you can see the RS, it's hard to see probably, but I can tell you RS line at new high right now on the weekly chart. Go to daily chart. Because this last week it fell, so the daily chart RS line didn't go higher. But the good thing is, despite all this choppiness, where is it ending this week? Right on the 10-day. Now, relative strength fall because market has been up this week, but whereas this stock is actually didn't make much movement, right? So it was a down week for it. But again, sometimes you just have to take those little subtleties, which is it didn't fall that much, right? For this stock, it's considered good when it doesn't fall that much because it's just so volatile. But again, there's not much history, so you can't really learn from history on the chart. But it is a IPO stock. ALAB, I would consider ALAB now similar to an SMCI type of category, where it could potentially be a leader. So anyhow, But like I said, we don't have much history on it, so that's why you can't really compare that. You have to treat it like IPO. Another stock that is very interesting, again, health. Moderna and RMD. Like, I haven't even looked at Moderna since pandemic, right? But what did it do this week? It gapped out on a nice cup with handle pattern, and look at this handle. It's so tight. Again, this stock hasn't done well for a long time now. Like, look at this earnings curve. In fact, I think they report a 90-something% drop in their Moderna vaccine for coronavirus, right? Like, they're basically not selling much no more on those stuff. But they report some, potential guidance for like good stuff going forward. I can't remember all the details, but here's the guidance. Look at these numbers here. It might be turning around for other stuff, and this stock has been punished like big time. Again, so look at the daily chart. Clear all this resistance right here on one day. And even before that, it was a nice uptrend already. And it finally broke out. And look at this day, how it holds. Close at the top. Very tight trading. Right? I love this type of pattern. Gap up. The next day, it just didn't want to go down. Just trade sideways in a way. Very tight range. Powerful chart pattern. So that's Moderna. RMD. You can see the relative strength was low on Friday, so which means it didn't perform as good as the market. But there's something about this chart that I like a lot. Again, gap up. Next day, closed near the same closing price. The third day, it didn't make a new low, even tighter. Fourth day, starting to move. Fifth day, starting to move. And right here, make a new high. Even though it closed at the bottom of the range, but because it's so tight, it tells me no one wants to sell. And here's the number one indicator, volume. So IBD did mention this stock, ResMed. Again, this is very similar to this group has really rebounded strong. Medical products. So TMDX, which we didn't look at, was a number within the top 5 on my list. Look at this run right now. So that's up here, TMDX right here, number 3. So then we go down to AX Financial, also did well. AZN. Okay, another name that was a previous leader, ANF, is now starting to come back. So we had this huge run, built a double bottom base. It's a 23% correction, and now it's starting to move up. The volume is not show up yet, but maybe it'll show up as it comes closer to the breakout point. But it's moving, and it's in the top 50. So yeah, I do want to highlight that. LMAT Health, another strong medical stock. Tyler in technology, UTHR, KEX. Again, this one's still doing well. LPG, so very similar. This is in transport pipeline. So this stock, like, it was one of the first ones that moved in the last few weeks. Like, as you can see, it moves right here, and like even here, it already started to move before a lot of stocks as they were correcting. And this one is, again, on the chart, it looks like it's not moving fast, but that's because it has a big correction here. Let me see how big that, 33%. But it is moving fast, and it's a very good looking chart as well. So yeah, this is one area, the database side, and IBD wrote an article about this area 2 weeks ago, and they talk about CVLT, and then it came out on earnings, right? So that's a good sign. And you can see the fundamental, like on the projections here, very strong. Like this is, 10-20% growth to like over 50 to 100% growth. And the article that IB wrote 2 weeks ago was about how in AI, the first layer of the infrastructure, which is the infrastructure they have to build out to accommodate AI. the next layer of the thing that they need to build out is the data center. Like, so Commvault, the other one is ESTC, Elastic. This starting to move. You know, it doesn't look as good as Commvault yet, but it's starting to move. This fundamental not as strong as the other one, but this is also moving. It hasn't broke out from the trend line yet. It's still trying to hold on to that trend line, downtrend line. But once it breaks above it, this could move as well. Anyhow, the story behind that AI story was like, yeah, the data guys could be the next big movers because companies need to use them to help them with training models, right? And data, these guys provide the data storage and database stuff. So they could be a mover in that sense. So then we have steel, USAP, Wabtec, transportation equipment. We already talked about Tidewater. Again, here we see more retails. So Wing, TXRH, right? Both of them. So Kava is, you know, in that whole group, they're all moving, right? So they're all like near new highs or making new highs. TXRH I like a lot. They just reported. Wing also reported, but TXRH actually came out. So I like that. On the travel side, Melly came out, like, you know, it came out pretty big on earnings. And that looks, you know, pretty good right now. Like this 10-day slope is strong, super strong. And this has been hiding for a while, like, because it's been building this huge base. The earnings line, look at this earnings line. And look at these numbers right here, strong. Like, fundamentals are strong. And versus Expedia, whole report got whacked because it just, I don't remember. So there's something that they're just not doing as well as Melly is. And this is Expedia, it just got whacked. So two different story, two same stock, but similar stock, but one's doing a lot worse. More financials. I know we haven't talked about financial as much, but yeah, the financials are strong. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, you know, some of these stocks are really strong. Like, let's just jump to it. VCTR. Again, these are not your big caps, right? But look at this guy right here, VCTR. Look at this volume. JXN, Jackson Financial. Again, smaller caps. Look at these guys running. Like, how many weeks now, right? So, you know, the financials are really strong this year. Like, I know they didn't get as much attention because everyone like tech, right? But the financials are really strong this year. And if we go into a reducing rate environment, these guys have more room to go, right? Now, it is kind of, you know, when you look at the whole sector in general, you can see it's kind of in limbo right now. It's like it's doing this base thing. Nothing wrong. It's just it's going sideways right now. But the leaders are coming out, right? So those ones that I just mentioned, the smaller caps guys, MCY. Let's look at that one. AX. I forgot AX. Yeah, AX. Again, this is smaller. So this is not yet out yet, but it's coming out really strong. It's trying to come out. So again, smaller cap. So the smaller cap, you know, in the financials are doing okay. Like, not all of them, obviously, but these are the ones that are leading right now. MCY, again, smaller cap. Look at this run right now. Look at that 50-day line. It's just insane. I mean, the numbers are improving. This one not so good, so I'm not sure about that one. But yeah, so you know, the two names that I very well aware of, one owned by Buffett, is AXP, American Express. Again, you know, 50-day line is strong. Look at that. It took a little break right here, but looks like it wants to go again. This week it kind of didn't participate. That's the only problem. So relative trend line came down, but I wish it did participate this week, but it didn't. But the pullback, I mean, it's not perfect, but it still looked a little bit orderly. I would use that word. The volume is not as high as the buying volume here, so I think it's okay. And then the other one that I like, in terms of larger cap is Goldman Sachs. So this one is still on a nice uptrend. Look at how smooth it is riding that 10-day line. And the volume, you can see all the blue volume are higher than the down volume. So yeah, institutions are liking this one. This is a big cap one. So this is the easy to hold type of stocks, versus the smaller cap guys. Oh yeah, I missed Shack. Shack also reported this week on restaurant side. And you can see it bouncing back from this pullback. This is on a nice uptrend. A lot of people don't like this stock because it hasn't done well. Right now it's okay, but they say if you look back in history, they just haven't done as well. There's not like a nice curve going up, right? So that's why a lot of people don't like this stock. But right now the numbers are strong. Like, look at these numbers. 20 cents, 22 cents. Like, it's really strong. And I like this base too. I know it's a short base, but it's a nice, 16% correction. It's a nice base. So again, this is, again, the starting date for the relative performance is since April 9th, and I use that date just because it was the last Fed date. And these are the stocks that are leading based on that time frame. And to me, I'm very surprised by this list because most of these stocks, except TDW, that is really well. Like, I've traded that quite a bit before, and Powell, like, a lot of these names are quite new to me. So yeah. And then if you go down further, TRN, TCOM, HG, SkyWest, IBKR, Interactive Broker, Duolingo, Chipotle, Credo, Advertising, Insurance, MCY, we were talking about that, SEM, SO, CHDN, Levi. Like, you don't see your usual names, like CrowdStrike, Palantir, so here's ESTC, Google is here, 69, right? We talk about that. Goldman Sachs, Upwork, even Upwork is a new name. Like, I never traded this stock before. BAN, TDG, RGA, GVA, GE. Yeah, GE I traded before. Palo Alto, right? So Palo Alto, like, I do still own a small position in it. I trim it. It was going nicely, and then all of a sudden it's kind of like, again, this is one of the few tech stock that are still it didn't do well in last earnings, but here's the tightness that start happening, and then here's the tightness, and here's the tightness again. So I like the tightness in this chart, and it also broke the 50-day downtrend, but it hasn't moved. That's the problem. I want it to move, but it hasn't moved. But it's holding tight. Like, it's just holding and moving at a slower pace. At first it was doing really well when it came out, like, as it started to bounce, but it's slowed down now. Anyhow, just want to mention that. EQT, BSX, TT, ZGN, WikiTX. Yeah. Just want to see if anything that has surprised me. Again, AXP down here. Like I say, you're not going to see the tech names. If I go down further, I'm just curious what's at the bottom. You see a lot of orange? You see? The technologies hasn't done as well as, like, these are the, like, obviously, like I said, they could come back, but they corrected the most, right? They're still at the bottom of the list, like Informatica, like, oh yeah, this one got hammered this week, right? Cloudflare. So I don't know what's happening. Like, I never expect a stock like Cloudflare to do this. Like, this is strange to me. Yeah. So I just, like, SMCI is down here too. Monday is down here. Cyber is down here. Like, a lot of tech stocks are down here. Team, yes, even Salesforce, right? Like, I haven't heard anyone talk about Salesforce in, like, weeks. I don't know what's happening. Like honestly, this whole group is getting killed right now, and a lot of this guy hasn't reported yet. So I don't know what's gonna happen when they report. Like I said, like Cloudflare is a it's a scary one. Like if it happened like that, like even HubSpot, like I thought this was gonna do well, and then look at it's just falling apart now. Like since the rumor that Google, I think was it Google or someone wants to buy them, it hasn't done well. Look at this. I don't know what's happening. So a lot of this stock's just given up. Like it shouldn't be doing this, especially in a pretty good 10-day session market, right? But they're not doing that. ServiceNow, another one. Like this is everyone say how ServiceNow is going to dominate the AI industry. But I don't know what's happening right now. So they're just giving back a lot. Then this is the problem, right? Holding on to the. I'm not saying they won't bounce back. They probably easily could bounce back. I'm just saying right now they're having a lot of problems. Like even Coin, like, oh yeah, Coin reported, right? And what happened that day? I thought it was gonna be smooth selling after earnings came out. And where was that day? I'm just trying to think. Yeah, it was Friday, right? I think it was Friday. Yeah. So the reaction was Friday. I thought it was gonna do well, and then what happened? It gave back all its gains right here. Give back all its gains on the earnings. Now it didn't close at the rock bottom, so that's the only good thing. But it didn't move up at all. So that was despite I think they beat a lot of the numbers. Yeah. So that was also weird. It's like Uber. It was a strong leader before. Again, all these guys are giving back a lot. Like this was a nice run, right? Like Uber. But look at it now. And like if we can rally when the market is strong, what happens if the market go down the next 2 weeks? This is gonna go even further. So relative strength line is like just keep going and going down. You see, just keep going down. And that's the problem with some of these previous leaders. ANET, another one. Like everyone say ANET's gonna dominate AI. I don't know what's happened. Like it did have a good bounce on Friday. I don't remember the news. Is there a news? I remember something. But it has a nice bounce that day. But in general, right? I'm talking about in general. So it did clear the short term moving average. It's still at the 50-day. So we'll see what happened here. Yeah. So it did break the trend line. So that's good news. But like I said, it's still under the 50-day. So I would draw the trend line now, like around there. I'll mark it, set alert, and see what happens. Yeah. Oh shit! Sometimes it's hard to set this thing. There you go. All right. MU, we saw that. I'm just looking at the technology ones because there a lot of them are leaders before. I mean, Microsoft is 243 in terms of ranking. Like, it's not performing at all.
Wow.
On this list, right? So, yeah. Oh, like I know we didn't look at let's look at the image index, just to see where it is. So yeah, so it does look like the indexes in general, like the general market index. This is the downtrend line still going. So it's right at the downtrend line. So if I draw this, I can set this downtrend line right there. So it's been bouncing back, right, like the market did. Except it didn't make a new high this week. So that's the only negative there. And then look at software, guys. So this one also on a downtrend line. Again, same thing. It didn't make a new high this week versus the index did. Also negative. So they're lagging, right? They're lagging. Like the RS line is going down. So the techs are just not doing its thing. So let's see if that turns around. If the market rally continue, we are very close. Once it breaks above this trend line, I expect more people joining those group. But let's see. If it still underperform, even if it breaks out, then like I say, I think the leadership has changed for sure. right now, I wouldn't say that they couldn't come back, but it's just lagging right now. They're just lagging. I don't know why they're lagging. They should be bouncing stronger than other areas because that's usually what techs do, but they're not doing that.